The type of attention you get and who you get it from determines where we end up in life.
We are we got.
Jesus has already been accepted at the University of Texas in Austin, electrical
In a
engineering.
community where the statistics aren't the best, the default isn't the best either.
The gentleman who's going to be on the field representing South San,
Defensive captain of the varsity football team.
Mr. Jesus
Giving
Rendon.
his life to giving back to this community.
St. Joseph's Catholic Church Choir.
So I decided to start a nonprofit called Building a Purpose.
And if we can raise that default to be something of higher standards,
Help students find their purpose in life.
I think we can do something
We all we need.
special by
Welcome to
default.
the Jesus Rendon podcast, where we talk about life, purpose, and God. Our next guest here is Dr. Virginia Mata, who is a veteran for the United States Navy Reserves and currently holds the role as the Director of Life and Social Justice for the San Antonio Archdiocese. Thank you so much for coming on, Ms. Mata.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yes. I know we met through Mr. Elias and the work you've done with him over the years and working with him. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I went to school here in the west side of San Antonio. I know we're in the south side, but I kind of drove through the west side coming from the Archdiocese. But I grew up off of 36th Street and Culebra, between Culebra and Commerce. And so back then, it was, as my mom would say, puro monte. And so the funny thing that I realized was that, you know, I learned a lot about redlining while doing my PhD. I mean, I knew about it, but I learned a lot more about it during my PhD. And what I learned was that the area where we lived was outside the red line area. So, I mean, it pretty much, it was out in the middle of nowhere, and nobody really cared about that area. So it was a rough area. Just growing up there in that area, there were no houses around us. Practically, we had the next door it was what we call monte, but we kind of made it into a little football field, and so we would call it the field.
Nice.
Yeah.
So where did you go to school?
I went to school at Memorial High School. Graduated
High School.
from Memorial in 1987.
All right.
Yeah, the year that was the year that.
Did y'all beat Kennedy?
No, that's the year that. That's the the funny thing that the whole 4 years that I was in high school, we never won a football game. Well, actually, we never even scored a touchdown into the last game. When I remember it was Sonny Melendres said that he'll give Memorial $100 for every touchdown that they score. And I think that last game we scored a touchdown.
Nice. That motivated him, huh?
Yeah, I think it did. I mean,
You should go back and tell him you'll give $100 for every touchdown.
Right. I don't know how they're doing now, though.
Memorial. Okay, so what happened after you graduated from Memorial?
Well, that same year, my brother was murdered. He was 23, and so I decided I don't want to stay in San Antonio. I want to go to somewhere different. So I ended up going to Texas Tech University, and I still remember my mom asking my mom, like, can you drop me off at the Greyhound to go to orientation? And of course, she didn't know anything about that kind of stuff because she didn't have an education.
You were the first in your family to go to college?
My twin sister and I were the first to go past the 9th grade and the first, obviously, to graduate and go to college. But yeah, I remember on the way to the Greyhound downtown, she's like, yo no sé qué tienes, estás loca. I'm like, Mom, you don't have to do anything. Just drop me off at the bus station. And so I made my way to Lubbock, Texas, and not really quite knowing how I was going to pay for tuition and dorm. But thank God that I was able to make it. Relied on student loans and grants, and I had gotten a couple of little tiny scholarships, but those little scholarships kind of gave me some hope.
Okay. What made you choose Texas Tech?
I don't know. I think I had seen it, and so I wanted to get away from the big city. And so I wanted to leave, and I just went up there.
Did you go by yourself, or your sister went with you?
My sister went to A&M in College Station, but she did transfer over to Texas Tech. She saw the better school up there, so
nice.
She went up there her sophomore year. I went with the best friend from high school. So yeah, it was good because I don't know that I could have done it by myself.
Right.
Yeah.
What did you major in?
I majored in political science, but of course, I switched several times. I think I started off with information technology, and then education, then ultimately with political science. And then I finished and came back home and just got a job. I couldn't find a job, so I started working at the Salvation Army Girls Home with teenage moms that were belong to the state, I guess, and taking care of them, helping them do all their stuff that they needed to do, appointments and things like that. And so we would work 72-hour shifts. And so I did that for a year, and then went off to the city and worked as a caseworker for homeless folks or unsheltered. And so then I later applied for Bexar County probation. And then in the meantime, I started doing my master's at UTSA in public administration. And I did that. And then eventually my goal was to get to the federal system, because I knew the federal system was a better job and career. So thankfully, after 3 years at the county, I applied at the federal system and got hired in Del Rio. So I was in Del Rio for about, I think, 3 years or something. I forgot how many years, but not too long.
So was this after or before or during your time in the reserves?
So at the same time that I was doing my master's, I enlisted in the reserves, the Navy reserves.
How old were you when you went into the reserves?
I think at that point, I was about 28.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I was about 28. I went in as an enlisted member.
Enlisted, even though you had a degree?
Even though I had a master's. Yeah, the recruiters, they play their game. So I'm like, okay, so I'll do that. And then eventually I'll get my commission eventually. So the enlistment is 6 years. So every year I would go to the recruiter there at the reserve center. It's like, okay, can I submit a packet for a commission? It's like a whole big application process. And he kept saying, no, we don't have anything. There's no openings. And so every year my enlistment was for 6 years. It was a 6-year contract. And so every year I would go. And finally, the last year I was like, I'm not taking no anymore. I need to submit a packet. You just tell me where and how to do this. And so he's like, fine, but don't think you're going to get accepted and stuff like that.
Jeez.
So then he tells me apply for, forgot what he said to apply, but whatever he said to apply, I went back home. I'm thinking, I'm not qualified for this, public affairs officer. I said, I'm not qualified for this. I don't have the background for this. And I don't even like all this publicity stuff. And so then I just started thinking, this doesn't feel right. So then I decided, I don't know why I decided to call a recruiter in Dallas. I told him my background, my education and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, based on your background, you should be applying for an intel job, like an intelligence officer. And I'm like, are you sure like that? And then I confessed to him. It's like, well, the officer down here is telling me to apply for public affairs officer. And he's like, well, I don't know why he's telling you that, because that field is closed and you don't even qualify for it. So I'm like, and he was super nice. Yeah, Lieutenant Long. He helped me get my packet in. I interviewed before 3 captains, Navy captains.
Captain.
So then I got accepted on the first try. Yeah, I retired after 20 years.
What did you retire as?
Lieutenant commander.
Okay.
Yeah, intelligence officer.
Nice.
Yeah, it was I really enjoyed that experience. Taught me a lot. And the story, I share that story with a lot of people just to show, you can't give up, and you have to find, if there's a roadblock, find another way to get around it. Yeah,
well, good thing you had the insight or wisdom enough to keep asking even after they said no, right?
Yeah. And to look, right? To look, well, what else can I do? And so question it.
Trust but verify.
Yes.
That's awesome. So what made you say, how many years was it?
20.
20? You said 20 and that's it.
Yeah. Because that's when I got promoted in Del Rio. in my federal job. Because at the same time I had a federal career with the U.S. Probation Office. And so I got promoted and transferred back to Del Rio. And so I didn't want to deal with all of that. So I ended up just retiring.
Okay.
Because I had already had my time in. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Were you married, kids along the way, or?
I was married but divorced. Yeah, that's another reason why I kind of left too, because there was too much going on. So I don't have kids.
When you left to Texas Tech, or you left to Del Rio?
When I left to Del Rio the second time, because I went the first time I got hired, I went to Del Rio, and then came back and then got promoted after many years here in San Antonio, and then went back to Del Rio.
Okay.
Yeah, it was quite a journey. I mean, I've applied so many times. Things never really came quite easy, because I applied for a supervisor job with the federal probation office many times, and would continuously get overlooked with people who had way less experience than me. Nobody had my credentials, the military. Nobody had this education. Very few had the education and the experience. So, but that's the way it is. You just got to keep fighting and keep trying to build yourself and do better.
Definitely. No, that's awesome. So you were a civilian, GS?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at the federal system, back in the old days, they renamed it. So they had we were like GS 13s, and then a supervisor at GS 14. But they renamed it now. They use a different system, but the old folks still kind of saw those old ratings. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So after that, where did you end up going to work?
So after that, I retired in 2018, and then I started working on my PhD again.
You retired again?
Yeah.
So first you retired from the reserves, and then you retired from your civilian job.
Correct. And then started my PhD. I had already started my PhD, taking some courses, but I went back and finished it up and started the dissertation. And in the process in between, I flipped a few homes, and kind of that kept me really busy. Yeah. So.
Yeah. What got you into that? Family?
Well, my twin sister is a real estate agent, and so she would look for the properties, and then I would hire the contractors, and she would do more of the interior work. Kind of like the Property Brothers, but the Property Sisters.
The Property Twin Sisters.
Yeah.
Of South Texas. Yeah, they gotta make a show out of you guys. Look at that.
But yeah, so we did that for a few times. It was good. It was good. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Well, I bet it's a lot, as you know, with our progress through the work we've done remodeling places. Jeez, it's so much work.
Yeah, and it can be quite dangerous
and expensive, expensive, time consuming, and all the
lots
things.
Of work, right? And you never know, because you never know what you're going to find behind a wall or something, right?
Right. Or you think it is for face value, but no, it never is. So the career into that little entrepreneurial stint, did that ever make you want to start your own business or consulting firm or anything?
No, I kind of really wanted more. I've been more of the education type. So if anything, more like a nonprofit or something. Especially after the dissertation, that really came.
What was your PhD in?
My dissertation the focus was on community organizing and civic engagement through parishes. So that's what I was looking at. The only reason that came up was because I got involved with Cops Metro.
Oh, they got you.
And well, yeah, they got me.
They're good, man.
They are. Well, that became my question. Well, how do you? Because I would see the people there. They have been involved for decades.
They're persistent. And
I was like, why do these people stay engaged for so many years? And that became my research question. Trying to find out, because I would ask some of the folks there, well, what keeps you here this long? And they would repeat back to me what's in the secret sauce? We don't know what's in the secret sauce. So that was my aim, to find out what was that about. So I did an action research study, meaning that I tried to do some of the steps that they did, so that we could kind of replicate it, and in conjunction with whatever it was that they had at the time. So we kind of mirrored that, and I had 10 people, including myself, in the study, and I got some really great findings from the study.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you work for Cops Metro? Did you end up going to work for them, or just do
I
the
never.
research?
I was just one of the volunteers or leaders that they call us. Yeah.
Is that how you met Mr. Elias?
Yeah, and I started there right during the pandemic. So I went to one meeting in person, and then the pandemic hit the next month. But cops was like, everybody was. I felt like everything was shutting down, but cops, they like sprang into action right away. They started meeting on Zoom. And at that time, Zoom wasn't even popular yet.
No,
So,
hadn't popped up yet. Yeah.
So you had
It's the WebEx and
you had these older ladies learning how to use Zoom and stuff. It was pretty amazing to see that, how quickly it happened and how quickly they got moving. Within days and within the few weeks, we were talking to all the council people and a whole bunch of different folks.
No, that's awesome. So when your research, what did you find out of the research and the dissertation you did? What were your findings?
So remember I said that my research question was what keeps folks civically engaged through their parishes? So 5 key things that I identified. Number 1, first of all, they have people that are like what I call good Samaritans. Good Samaritans are people that, like me and Mr. Elias, that are not afraid to go down into the ditch and find out what's going on to help somebody. So they're not afraid to speak up, and they have compassionate hearts because they're just not like looking, I feel bad for them. No, what can I do? So they're action-oriented folks that really care about the neighbor. Number 2, you have to have the support of leadership, like the clergy support or institutional support. So if you don't have that support, it's really hard, because the clergy or the leaders, it could be an organization too. The leadership really enables hope. They do that by literally opening doors to classrooms where you can have meetings. And then the other thing is that they have followers. And so that's a really important thing. The next big thing is that the work has to give you a sense of purpose. A lot of people in the study said, well, I feel like I'm doing God's work, that this is my calling. And so the work gives them a sense of purpose, but you have to look at it even more than that, right? Because I don't like to just tell people, you just get a sense of purpose. But no, so what does that mean? Well, how that's done is using something what they call the iron rule: never do for others what they can do for themselves. And that's super important, especially like now working for the Archdiocese. I kind of see that as subsidiarity. Like you don't want to just give everything to somebody, because eventually you do more harm by stripping them of their dignity. So practicing the iron rule allows people to maintain their dignity. And so that's super important too. The next big thing is everyone said they stay engaged because of the relationships, the people they meet. And so relationships are super important because they really provide that solidarity, and they do something else that's much bigger. They create social capital. And I don't know if you've ever read Bowling Alone or if you've studied Robert Putnam. I mean, he literally has, like, they did a documentary on him. He did research on 125 years of quantitative data, and he looked at the effects of relationships, and especially relationships that he calls like relationships built on trust and reciprocity. Having those type of relationships is so beneficial. Like you have a longer lifespan, you have a better quality of life, just so many benefits. And so in that way, in that process that community, or you can say community organizing, not necessarily just COPS Metro, but broad-based community organizing, they create that type of atmosphere where you are creating relationships not only within your own parish, but also with other parishes, like, for example, across the city or across in another different state or city, side of town. So you're building two types of relationships: bonding relationships and bridging relationships. And bridging relationships are those relationships that are with people that are a little bit different than you, maybe have a higher income, more education, or live in the best side of town. And what that does, I said, it builds social capacity. Social capacity gives you the ability to take collective action, which is the last ingredient. Collective action is super important because everyone, again, also said that they stay because they see the results. Like they see people getting help, they see the libraries, they see the workforce development programs, they see people's homes getting fixed up or repaired. So those are the key ingredients. Part of that also, my study, like once I identified those things, I kind of took it a little bit further and identified other key important things. For example, the role of stories and the role of those, how do you build those relationships, right? A lot of people, everybody like in the literature in the world, they tell you, oh, relationships are so important. Like we got to form relationships. Well, what does that mean? What does that look like? And so relationships, you really need to sit down, have a cup of coffee with someone, tell them a little bit about your story, about what brings you to this work, and let them tell you the same. And you listen very carefully, ask questions, and you create a bond in a way that you have this sacred conversation where you make a heart-to-heart connection. For me, that is how you build relationships. And so that's super important to know too. But the stories are super important. That's why the stories, like for example, a story, you can just, I remember one instance where my sister told a story about how she was experiencing like the same trauma almost that she experienced when she was a kid, when there would be drive-bys and my mom would say, get down, right? Well, at the school where she worked as a librarian, they would have the fire drills and they would get down, and but for a second they wouldn't really know, like, is it real or is it a fire drill? And so she had that back, and so like that story was really powerful, and she shared it with us and we were all moved. And so stories in a way have the ability to move and open hearts, and so move us to action. And then the main thing that came out of my study also was connecting all this like to something bigger. So what does all this mean now? And then I started thinking, well, what's happening right in this framework? And so I started looking at it, and I did a lot of just reflecting and thinking, and I realized that all these ingredients were doing something together. They create energy, and so energy comes from each of those ingredients, especially from the leadership one. That a lot of energy comes from that one, but that energy is kind of like the power that is created. Community organizers will tell you that community organizing is all about power, and they tell us, even though they tell us that, like we were not really quite understanding that. People still have like a very negative perception of power, but it's all based on how you use it, right? And so what I saw was how power is actually created within that framework. I could see like how the power is building up, and you build up this power to counter a different type of power that's out here. It could be hidden power, invisible power, or just straight out visible power. And you need the power that's created within that framework, within those 5 ingredients, is strong enough to counter hidden and invisible power. And so when I looked at that, for me, because it moves you, this power moves you from inside. And I started thinking, if this power is used for the common good, it's never used for my own satisfaction or my own ego. It's really love. It's not, it's energy that transforms into love and power. And so you can't really see it, but you can feel it. Now, when you put it together in a room, for, let's say, for example, an action with the mayor or somebody, then there you see it come alive. But for the most part, you don't see it. It's kind of funny because it's invisible. Like, the hardest type of power to counter is invisible and hidden power, that sometimes is within our institutions, right? And so when you have this power here can counter that power. And you create that power through those ingredients by taking collective action, by building those relationships, by having that support, and by identifying those people that have those big hearts, those good Samaritan hearts. And so that's how you do it.
Oh my God, that was amazing.
Yeah,
you have a lot of fruit for us to dig into there, and something tells me this podcast is going to be probably 5 hours long. But I've got I'm just blown away by the research you're sharing, because I have so many similar ties to each of those concepts, and I've seen them in action, being in the church, being in the nonprofit world, observing different leaders who have power, this invisible power, this visible power, this abusive, this love power. I mean, all kinds of. There's so much fruit there that man,
Well,
I
let me
need-
share one other
Go
key
ahead.
thing, because the other key important thing is that this power, it's dynamic. So it's always either multiplying or diminishing. How does power multiply? It's only multiplying when you're building those relationships. So if you've circled yourself, put walls around you, you're not growing. More than likely you're diminishing, because you have walls around you. Only grow by being in relationship with other people and or other organizations. So when you'll have a any strong organization is one that's partnered, that collaborates with other entities and forms a lot of strong relationships. That's what makes a great leader. Someone that can go out and form these relationships, because relationships give you the ability to really build that power.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I loved it when you said also the row of stories has a way to open hearts.
Yeah.
And you know, if you're so then you go back to the walls, if you're somebody in power who has these walls up, you're diminishing. That's so true. And it's dynamic.
So you're either growing or diminishing.
And so, and a lot of times being in power is in the most uncomfortable places, but being able to stand strong and build those bridges too, right? Where you have the walls down and you're accessible.
Exactly.
Because then you also have the power you have the opportunity to share power and raise those up, because when you're raising those up in that sense of power, you begin to build a following who's also powerful.
Yes.
Man, that's awesome. I need to read your dissertation, because is all of this, isn't
That's
it?
in my dissertation, and I mean, it's really amazing.
Have you written a book about any of this?
Well, I'm hoping to one day, but you know, right now it's really tough with the work schedule, because I'll start and then I got to do my work, and then I have to start. Okay, where did I leave off? So it's really tough, but I'm hoping to do something with it, because I do want to make it more accessible. Because so many of us don't understand, why is it that some people, or even some people, don't stay in their ministries or don't stay civically engaged. And it's because they're not seeing those results. They're not building those relationships. They're not getting that sense of agency. And so that's why they drift off. That's why even people burn out. Like a leader, the CEO of a company, if they don't see their results, they're gonna burn out eventually. If they're not building relationships, they're not gonna see good results. So it's all connected. All these ingredients are depend on each other, and you can't just have one and think that you're gonna survive with that. You can't really So this is part of my theory. So that's what I really think and see it now, how it works.
Well, I think there's also evidence over millenniums of mankind, how power has corrupted men, right? And you used an example of bad power, right? And you see that it has survived even to this day, when being powerful was a necessity to survive, right? Back in the Stone Age, where you had to fight for food, or there was only a certain amount of rations, and the strongest prevailed, right? What do they call it? The survival of the fittest.
Well, you know,
right?
that's what they tell us, right? I don't know if it's all true, because in reality, you build more power collaboratively. So if you have a big tribe, I don't care how strong you are.
Right.
If you formed your relationships within your tribe, yeah.
So certainly it's not a sustainable model.
Correct.
And to use your power in a way where in that means, and you see it how different cultures have grown and become powerful, and throughout the test of time, it's always often a man's abuse of power in a way.
Mhm.
That's the downfall of a nation or the downfall of a society, a community,
Yeah.
or a family.
Exactly, because
And
you can look at it within the family too.
it goes every level. And I talked about this on my last podcast that I had done, and when all the backlash, I'm Catholic, practicing Catholic. I grew up in the church, and my wife and I both still attend actively. And when all the backlash came from the abuse that was happening in the Catholic Church, I remember one of our priests had given a talk about how fundamentally it was a sin, and I didn't agree with him. It was a sin of homosexuality, and I don't think that was the case. And I think it was, the fundamental sin was power, where it was a person in authority who took advantage of somebody who was weaker. I think if it was a girl, they might have even done the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think we missed the mark on sometime on the sin that's right in front of your face, instead of the root cause of power. And you see that at every level. You see it in an abusive father who's the strongest in the family, who can't communicate, and that's the way he knows how to communicate, or is trying to get his way through his powerful means. And it's such an interesting topic, because there's power's a tool, and how you wield it determines whether I want to say if you're a good person or not.
Well, one of the key things about power is that you constantly have to be reflecting.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I'm doing drawing me closer and others closer to God?
Mm-hmm.
Is what I'm doing promoting the common good?
Mm-hmm.
If you can answer yes to those questions, I think you're good. But if you cannot answer yes to promoting the common good and drawing closer and others closer to God, then there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you need to ask yourself, who am I doing this for?
Right.
So,
And we see it at every level. I'm gonna have our I've been working on getting our priest onto this podcast, and I love his symbol and the light he's brought into unity in our community. That's all I've seen from him in what he's pitched and promoted in all his homilies. It's like he always ties back to unity, even if the message is about something else. You can tell that's his work was in families, keeping them together and everything, right? And he's a Franciscan priest, and he was a brother for many years, and then became a priest later, I think in his 30s. So he had a long laid life, right?
Yeah.
Different perspectives, but in his homilies that I've often referenced to, he talks about the strength of being united in your nuclear family, with your family, in your community, in your church, and in our state legislature, in our federal legislature, and every level of community, organization, government. There's so much of an importance of why we should be united.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I mean, I think that's what we're called to do, right? When we speak about purpose, it's about how do we together love thy neighbor, right? Love God. The two greatest commandments, to love God and to love thy neighbor. And so to do that, we have to be united. We have to be that one body in Christ, right? And so that's why it's so important to really focus on not just what I'm doing, because it's not an I, it's a we, it's an us. And so together we're called to grow closer to God together. And it also with all of creation, because this is the gift that God gave us. And it's not just for us, it's for the future generations. So how are we giving it to them? Because so far I see that we're not giving them something that's very good, because as I recall, we had the field where we played football and baseball. And I don't see kids today being able to even play in the summer because it's too hot. I mean, in the old days, I'm sure kids didn't have to worry about fires or floods, where like kids now worry about those things.
You mentioned invisible power. What is invisible power?
Invisible power is the power that you can't see, that occurs behind closed doors, and sometimes even like that's institutionalized. Like one of the perfect examples is redlining. Are you familiar with redlining?
A little bit, but Please
So
describe.
redlining is something that occurred in the 1930s, right? Where the federal government came in and said, we're going to give mortgages to people. But then they had these surveyors that came and looked at the areas. And so they decided which areas were high risk. Well, all the areas that were redlined were areas where the brown people and black people lived. And so those areas were redlined, meaning that, and they were labeled as hazardous. So you're not going to be you're not going to be investing in these areas. You're not going to be giving loans in these areas. And so that was hidden. The people down here, we didn't know anything about that. We knew nothing about that, right? So that's an example of what like invisible power is. It's that power that's back there that we don't see. Kind of like, the term hidden racism. You don't see it, but it's there. For example, if you watch a TV show and all you see is Mexicans being portrayed as the thieves and robbers and drunks or rapists, that's hidden racism. And in the same way, you kind of sometimes will see that kind of in power, and it's something that's been well researched actually. The label invisible and hidden power, and so it's out there already. It's common.
I've seen a campaign recently about being kind, and you see it across schools, right? Just on signs, be kind, and I don't even remember how we got this shirt. My daughter was wearing a shirt that said "Be kind" or kindness on it, and we teach all these different types of tools and skills in life, but how to be graceful with power and how to properly handle and receive power is not taught. It's almost like you learn by trial and fire, and then I'm going to say something that may be a little bit off, but the best way to dictate somebody's character is to give them power and know them before they had power, and you see the type of leader they are. But okay, and I say that, however, if I were to draw the line there and never allow them a chance to grow, which I'm sure there was times where I wasn't so graceful, especially in my younger age, right? And especially if you've never had power before, because when you get it, you're afraid to lose it, or you're afraid to be perceived as weak, and the imposter syndrome. There's so many things that go into this, but one of the things I've always done when I was acquiring power, a status, a role, or whatever it was to share it. And I think you talk about having the walls down, and I'd never really seen it in that light, but always sharing power is feeding back into the well that you drank from.
Yes, it's really important to rotate. And that's something that I see a lot, like in parishes, where you have the same people or the same family controlling the whole parish. And so you have to really, really work hard to make sure that those opportunities are shared and rotated, because they are really, truly opportunities, blessings to build leadership, to really become a future leader, especially for the young people. They are really a leadership school.
I never really saw it until I was a little bit more self-reflective. But I remember the first time an older man of the church, after we came back from an Acts retreat, and it was my first men's retreat, called me brother, and he had to have been 60 years older than I was, right? But the way he lifted me up, and career-wise, I couldn't tell you what he did for work, and at the time I was just a young engineer, right? But that avenue, right, of sharing power, of just in those words, and there was a bit of a movement too when Acts started becoming more active in like the mid 2000s and started doing teen retreats and things coming up. Because in those days you only saw Christian churches saying brother, sister, welcoming, right? And then in the Catholic churches it was just you're quiet, you nod, and you sit down, up and down in church, sit up, pray, speak when you're spoken to. More authoritarian, but as the church has evolved in its love, right?
Yes.
And you said that through the power, right? There's love by sharing that. It's felt as love, and I know I felt that when they called me brother for the first time, and he was older than my grandpa, right?
It really does. I mean, it really kind of softens the heart and opens the heart up. Really, like you feel it inside. It moves you from inside. It's really that internal growth, and it's powerful.
It sure is. What do you think about? You talk about redlining, and back in the day, St. Joseph's was built in 1935, and in those days, you had neighborhood community churches, right? So you had St. Joseph's, and then later on they built St. Clair's right here down the street, and then Our Lady of the Angels down the street here. So you have so many small churches that are in different neighborhoods, and they're landlocked, right? And so they don't grow as fast, and the ability to replenish the generations that have worked their whole lives to keep the church going aren't able anymore, right? Because being called to the Lord, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges you're seeing in all these neighborhood churches now.
And that's why the relationships are so important, because like I said, if you're not building relationships, and that means with even outside groups, people outside the community, to bring in people, to draw more people from the community, you're really diminishing yourself. And so you've built walls around you, and I mean, you won't grow that way.
Right. Is your home parish
My home parish is Holy Family.
Holy Family. Okay.
It's a small parish too in the west side.
Yeah, Divine Providence is, I mean, they had an amazing festival this past
yes,
year.
I've been to their festival before.
Well, I think this year was world record. Like it broke records, just how well it was attended, and it rained.
Oh wow!
And I was curious if you had any research done on why they were so successful.
Yeah, I mean, I know that it's a very well organized event, but it's a lot of it is going to be those relationships, because you could do all the social media marketing and all that stuff, but if you don't have a strong base, so obviously they have a very strong base because they're able to draw so many people. I mean, it's very well organized. I mean, they have a good bands and a lot of good music, and because my twin sister and I went about a year ago, and we were pleasantly surprised how good it was, and I mean how much people were there.
In my own personal research, I think that church, I think St. Bonaventure, they still have a lot of property to be developed and people moving in, and opportunity to recruit more parishioners, where we don't have any new subdivisions. I mean, this house is 100 years old, right? And I can't help but think that it's because they have that ability to recruit and cast a larger net, that they have more of an ability to retain. So, but you talked about bringing back or the relationships, and so it's the relationships that bring people back into the church, right? And you've got to do it with grace. You can't do it with a sense of authority or shame.
Right, exactly.
It's got to be with grace, and
well, you gotta
as
make
Jesus
them feel
would,
welcome.
right?
You gotta make them feel like they belong, right?
How do you make somebody feel like they belong in the church?
Well, you want to, like, going back to the subsidiarity, like you want to give them, like, let them participate in the mass, like offer opportunities.
That's what I was gonna say.
like offer opportunities for them to feel connected, right? You got to plant roots, because if you don't have roots, it's easy to walk away. But once you have those strong roots, you're there.
I can't help but wonder, for me, looking back at it, I was like, why did I stay in the church, especially as a kid? As a kid, I didn't want to go to church, right? And I went because my mom made me. And then as my wife ended up, we were going to the same church, and so that kind of kept me there too. And then when I went to college, why did I keep going to church at college? That's when we lose a lot of people. And at the UCC, the University Catholic Center at UT in Austin, I remember they had a little flyer that they needed people to play music, and I wasn't the best at guitar, but I was good enough when nobody else would sign up. So I signed up, and I didn't make every single Sunday, but I was definitely there when I signed up to play.
Wow, that's
And
good.
and I said, why? And then my wife, we did it. We didn't do it because she told me to sign up or I told her to sign up, but she signed up to give out the Eucharist, right, and become a part of the Mass that way. And it was those things that kept us being a part of the Mass. When you feel like you're a part of something, you
Yes.
stay.
That's so important. That's what I mean. Like, there's opportunities within the parish, right?
Mhm.
That where you can serve, and it's so important that we rotate those opportunities and not the same people do the same job forever.
Mhm.
Let welcome new ushers and let them take. I mean, the offerings. Make sure you rotate those. They're all opportunities,
Mhm.
and people want to do that, and so it's important to do that.
Well, it's important to allow them to feel called, because that is an opportunity for them to sustain the church for that period of time. And then I go back to motive and intent. Okay, so was I going to church because I got to play guitar, right? Was she going to church because she got to? But regardless of and I believe this heavily, regardless of what your reason is for going to church, if you're in the presence and have the opportunity to listen and receive Jesus, right, it will, through the power of repetition, and I think that's what the Catholic Church has gotten right for all these thousands of years. Through the power of repetition, you begin to think, oh, I wonder what hallowed be thy name means, right? And then it allows you to, through repetition, to really think and get to that next level of getting to know Jesus, getting to know God, right? And regardless of what got you there, whether it was good or whether it was bad, whether you're asking for forgiveness or you're trying to gain this invisible power, right? The fact that you're there is what's most important.
Definitely. I mean, I think we're all called, and we all have free will too. And so that's something that I think we need to learn more about, because we have the choice. God loves us so much that he gave us free will to decide, that we can decide if we want to make that sacrifice to go to church on Sunday or to play the guitar in the choir. But the rewards are so big, and most people, I don't think, really recognize that. I mean, the folks that have always been going to church, they do, but we got to do better about getting those that sometimes are marginalized and are out there and they don't think they fit in. But yeah, that's where we need to do the work.
And it's exactly that, making them feel welcomed. And once they're in and they're welcomed in, the message will get there. God's word always finds a way to reach you at the right spot at the right time. Because I look at I just ran through my little timeline of how I was in the church, what got me there. Now, I go there so I can be with Jesus in that space and receive the Eucharist. And my journey of practicing to be Jesus and being a better Catholic has been ups and downs, right? And so you can't shut the door on those who are on their journey too. And so I go back to our initial, what we were talking about, power, and how when people get it for the first time, I said it's a way to decide if they're a good person or not. Maybe it's whether they're making the right decision and if their heart's in the right place or not, because they need that reconciliation to grow, to become better. And that's probably the most beautiful thing about Catholicism is reconciliation, right? The ability to forgive and learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
I'm still not at the place where I think every sin is like I know what it says, every single sin is forgivable if your heart's in the right spot, but that's what the word says, right? And what that allows is for you to get better. And you look at any, what you talked about in your dissertation focused on organizational things in the church, but you can apply that to any organization.
Yes, you
and
can.
we talked about the federal government. We can talk about your family, and if I take it to the corporate world, this reminds me of agile, right? Where it's fail fast. You're going to fail, and then you have a reflective process where you're like, okay, what it was retrospective, what was good, what was bad, let me change this, let me change that. And you always, there's something called I forget what it's called, divine initiative. In short, I think it's divine initiative. I forget what it's called, but it says we understand that whatever that person was going through, they did the best that they could with the prime directive. That's what it's called. It's called the prime directive. I remember because Star Wars or Star Trek. The prime directive says we acknowledge that person did the best that they could with the resources they had at that time. And when you go into a conversation that way, it takes out anything about like any personal. Let's focus on getting that result better and how we can help you improve. And so if you see that in the corporate world, right, that's the same thing what reconciliation does in the Catholic Church. So, and there's so much fruit here.
I think, one of the things that I have really been contemplating really hard is I'm going to go back to the relationships, because it is in those relationships that we draw closer to God. Yes, our first introduction, and it's between me and God. It's a vertical relationship when you first become aware of the need for God and the relationship for God. But that's only the beginning. What we're missing part, and a lot of times, is that horizontal relationship, that it's with each person that you meet, that you grow. So when you meet 10 people, you start to gradually grow up higher. So it's by meeting people, by accompanying them and being with them through the process that we grow as that we actually grow closer to God in that way, and through creation, all of creation. And the Pope's encyclical, Pope Francis, his encyclical that he wrote in 2015, Laudato Si, describes that beautifully.
Well said. So tell me about what that was really good. I want to talk about that more with you, maybe offline, and we'll bounce ideas off each other, because I think a lot of what I've analyzed, what I've self-reflective, and what I've seen in power, how to be a good leader, how to be a bad leader, how to share power, how to not let it corrupt you and fail fast, all those things. There's a book there. and have you read is it 42 Laws of Power or something? That's another good read.
I haven't heard of that one.
I'd recommend that book to you. I'll share it with you. But it just gives you insight on how people have different power strategies and how they're effective, whether the intent and their heart is in the right place or not, they're still effective.
Yeah.
And whether that's your style or not, that's for you to decide. So, yeah, that was really good. I like that. What brought you to the work you do now with the Archdiocese?
It was really my dissertation, because the ingredients that I saw connected so well with Catholic social teaching. And so I started looking at also at Pierre Tellier de Chardin, and he was a Jesuit paleontologist, scientist, and priest back in the I think he passed away in the early 1960s or 50s. But he also looked at how we grow, and he really said that there is really energy there, that there's an energy force that is drawing us toward God. And so after, when I started making those connections, and that happened more like afterwards, towards the end of my dissertation. I couldn't go further into that because I already had so much, and I was up to here. But I started seeing that connection, and then I started seeing that the ingredients of relationships. That's solidarity. That's part of Catholic social teaching. The Good Samaritans, having that inherent dignity that moves us, right? That collective action, promoting the common good. Those are all key terms from Catholic social teaching. And so there are 7 key principles of Catholic social teaching, but it is about promoting the common good. It's about subsidiarity and the call to participation, and just protecting and defending inherent dignity. And so that's really what got me there. I mean, it was pretty amazing. It's kind of funny. One day I was getting towards the end of my dissertation, and I just kind of put my head down and I said, Lord, open a door. And then I saw an email from somebody that works at the Archdiocese, because I had been working with them on a ministry that we were trying to form at Holy Family, a mental health ministry at Holy Family. And it was an email from her, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just asked for this and it came. And so sure enough, it was for an interview for a job that my sister told me to apply to, that I wasn't even like thinking about it. And so I just applied for it real fast and didn't think anything else about it. And it was this job that I had applied for. And so I ended up getting that job. And I think it was just the work itself, the learning that occurred, and being able to connect those ingredients to Catholic social teaching. And so this job that I have now, the main goal is really to promote Catholic social teaching and to get it out there, to get people to learn about it.
So you said there's 7 virtues of Catholic, or 7 principles of
7 key principles. Yeah.
What are they?
Well, the call to defend inherent dignity, solidarity, subsidiarity, the call to family and participation, community, and care for creation is actually one of them. That's a really big one, because that's the initiative that I'm actually working on right now. Can't remember the other ones, but yeah,
care for creation.
Yeah, that means caring for our planet, and so that's actually a Catholic social principle. But Pope Francis gave us that Encyclical Laudato Si in 2015, and he instructed us to really care for our planet. It's a really beautiful way for me, like almost provided a pathway to, okay, so if I want to teach about Catholic social teaching, this might be the best way to do it, because it is one of the principles already. So next we'll share what the other principles are going to be. So so that's...
What did you call it that Pope Francis wrote? It was like a memo?
It's an encyclical.
What's an encyclical?
An encyclical, it's a long document written by a pope. And so his is pretty long too. And he wrote several of them. This was one of his major ones, and it's going to become, I believe it's going to become a major church doctrine in the future, because it's so comprehensive, and it really focuses on so many different, not just the environment, it focuses on the entire person and society. And so I really believe it's going to be transformational. In 2021, under the Pope's leadership, they also created an international online platform called Laudato Si Action Platform. And so they created this platform so that everyone, that you don't even have to be Catholic, everyone can register. And when you register, you basically pledge to do more about caring for creation. And there's 7 goals that are used to promote the care for creation, like caring for the answering the cry of the poor, answering the cry of the earth, spirituality, ecological spirituality, ecological education, ecological economics, and again participation. And so they're really important. I mean, they really connect very well also to Catholic social teaching. And so that's what right now, that's my big thing that I'm working on. And we have over 60 parishes already enrolled with us. And so we're going to, I've been taking them through the journey of doing the requirements to sign online and to get registered online, to get their goals submitted, and they have to do certain things.
So is it like creating another ministry at the church, or? Well,
it could be, and some folks have already. I mean, I asked the clergy to give us 1 or 2 people for each of to represent their parish, and so some of the people that have already gone through the first 2 trainings have started forming bigger groups, because we know that this work can't be done alone. but it does not necessarily mean that you have to form a whole new ministry. You can borrow people, because it's about, working together and really getting the buy-in of everybody. Because if you have a ministry, let's say the Guadalupanas, and they do a lot of breakfast sales, well, they need to know about learning how to reduce the use of plastics and whatnot, right? And so helping everybody learn about it is really important. But yeah, so some parishes will form Laudato Si teams. Others, like St. Luke's, they're working in conjunction with their social justice ministry for Hope. So they're kind of working together to do the Laudato Si.
Okay.
But it's a big. I'm super excited about it. I mean, to get 60.
Do you know if St. Joseph's is a part of it?
I don't think they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not enough of us, because we're all rotated in everything. You see the same faces, and they're older faces, and plus there's not a whole lot of youth.
Yeah, and the youth would really love this. I think we can draw the youth in with this kind of work, because
that's what I think about Acts. Like
Mhm.
the way to get the youth involved back is through Acts, or I mean other means certainly could work as well.
Mm-hmm. But if you want to join us, I mean, you could ask Father.
Here's the plug.
Father,
Francisco,
do you need a parish rep for Laudato Si? I bet you he'll say yes.
Laudato Si. Is that how?
Laudato Si.
Laudato Si.
Praise to you, Lord.
Praise to you, Lord.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
So you said there's 7 values in the care for creation, or
a part of the Laudato Si action platform. They also have 7 goals that they want us to address.
And those, so under the care for creation, there's 7 goals, or how is it structured?
So it's the Laudato Si, right, Encyclical, and then Pope Francis, under his leadership, they created the Laudato Si action platform. Now the platform itself created the 7 goals that each parish or family or individual.
And one of those goals is the creation.
Well, the whole thing is care for creation.
Oh, okay.
The Laudato Si, the whole thing is about caring for creation. And so how do we care for creation? By addressing by answering the call of the cry of the earth, the cry of the poor, ecological spirituality, sustainable lifestyles, ecological economics, ecological education, and participation.
Okay, ecological. What's ecological?
About the environment.
Okay.
Yeah, taking care of the environment.
Okay, I thought it was a religious.
No.
Okay. Wow. So when you sign up for this, are you a part of all of those different 7 goals, or can you just be focused on one?
Yeah, you can just be focused on one, like whatever it is you can work on. And some of them, most parishes are already doing something. Like most parishes have St. Vincent de Paul.
Right.
So there you're answering the cry of the poor, right? If you have
gardening day.
Yes, exactly. Different things that you could be doing, or you could. Some of these things are fairly easy to host. Like if you wanted to host a class, a training or a talk, not necessarily a training, but a talk on the Laudato Si Encyclical, or just teach people about Catholic social teaching, would qualify.
You think this is something Pope Leo's going to continue with?
For sure. He's definitely behind it.
Has he written an encyclical yet?
He just released, not an encyclical, but he did release an exhortation, which is a smaller document than an encyclical.
I'm learning so much right now. Hang on. Let me catch up. Okay, so what are the order of documents that a pope will release? So
the ones I know for sure that I've learned, the encyclical, which is the long one, and then the exhortation, which is a shorter version of an encyclical. And I don't know if there's any, there could be something else, but I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Some of this, I'm having to learn it too. I didn't really know it until, yesterday was my 1-year anniversary at the Archdiocese.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You've learned a lot, and you've got lots to share.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm excited about with the new Pope is I feel a little bit more, that's what I told you. I feel a bit more connected to him. And I told my wife, Judith, I said, I want to make an active effort to get to meet the Pope, because I think this might be the only time in my lifetime where we'll be able to speak the same born language that he was born with and be that much closer to the Word of God, right? And
I would love to be able to do that too.
I mean, that'd be amazing.
You're the second person that tells me this today. Like,
really?
Going to meet the Pope, yeah.
I mean, what an opportunity! What a
I had a friend.
in a time of so much division here.
Yeah, she just met the Pope too. I don't know. She was in Rome and he was out there, and she shook his hand. It's like, what? Are you serious? Because I posted a picture on Facebook. Wow. Yeah, I would love to do that.
And I feel like, again, with it being the language, that his primary language is English, it gives us an opportunity to be that much more connected to understanding the different doctrines, understanding the process. I think most people, when they think of the Pope, they're like, was it black smoke or was it white smoke?
Yeah.
And that's about where their education goes, and what the catechism too, right? So, I mean, I'm sure the catechism is somewhere in, if a exhortation goes approved, and I don't know. There's a lot to learn there.
For sure. There's still a lot I'm having to learn too.
So your first year at your first completed anniversary year at the Archdiocese, what has been the biggest thing you've learned so far?
That's a good question. I think really what I've learned is the importance of how to get closer to God. It's not just like us. Yes, having that relationship with God is super important, but it's also about using the tools that God gave us. All of creation is a tool that God gave us, even each other, to be able to really recognize God in the other person, right? And see that, and see God there, and be in His presence through us, through ourselves, and being able to recreate Him in the present. And so for me, that's really just been much more impactful than before, that I knew before. It's like, I don't know, it's much deeper, and there's so many ways to grow in our relationship and our love for God.
Oh, that's awesome. You think you got another 20 years into this career? You've already got 2 careers down with 20 years.
I'm not too sure. We'll see. Yeah. I mean, I would love to do some writing, to be honest, but but I know that this work's really important. And I feel like, I could be at a university or something, but I have a bigger classroom here. Like, I mean, our Archdiocese is so big. It's 19 counties. And
it's
so
huge.
To be able to do this work and to do God's work, it's a blessing.
No, it sure is. And I think the time, this era that we're in, where the Pope's primary language, and I think I saw more of St. Francis than I did. I mean, not St. Francis, Pope Francis than I did Benedict, right? And then I saw just in this short amount of time, I've seen more of Pope Leo than I have of Pope Francis, and I think people have received him well, very well, and we're biased because we're from here, but it's couldn't have.
I call him
come at
Pope
a better
Francis
time.
2.0.
2.0.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's going to do good work for us and continue that legacy that Pope Francis left.
Well, I feel like Pope Francis initially had a lot, because he was a Jesuit, right? Educated, the stigma that comes with the Jesuit style of what is it called? It's questioning, right? Something
like discerning, or
not discerning. It's something. Man, I should have prepared better for this. It's something
it's okay.
Along the lines of how Jesuits ask questions, and they it seems as if it's disobedient to ask a question in challenging, right? And there's like a stigma that has come with them. I know it's going to come to me. Father was telling me about it and give me the whole history, but I think he had that to come into, and plus, I don't think he could elaborately defend himself in the positions, or the media wouldn't pick it up to show the full story of how he would describe things until his last interview, right? Like when he went on, was it 60 Seconds? And she asked hard questions, and he gave the answers that were, everybody was saying, oh, he's for this or for that, and but he was explained it well. And this Pope, I feel like, because it's in the language that he was born knowing, he's able to combat it or challenge it right on the spot whenever it's something's taught, and the media will pick it up too. So that allows for a time to be, that allows for this era of this Pope to really communicate with more people.
I think he's going to do great. I mean, you're right. I mean, him being able to relate to, we being able to relate to him more, and so it's just easier.
Where were you when the smoke turned white?
I was about to have lunch with two sisters, and I still remember, because I was getting out of my car, and I said to myself, I just hope he calls himself Pope Leo. I don't know.
You knew that before? You said that.
I said that, but I didn't know who was going to be. Like, I didn't have any clue, or like.
Why did you want Leo?
Because of Leo the 13th. Because he wrote that first encyclical that's considered, like, he's considered more like the father of Catholic social teaching, and so if he's for Catholic social teaching, I'm good. And so when I heard that he called himself Pope Leo, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that.
Yeah, when I it said like 1 minute, and it's like a Pope has been, the white smoke's coming out. I'm at work, and I call my mom, or I text Father. I was like, oh, it's happening, and he goes, come ring the bells. So we pulled my kids out of school. We went, and my daughters were, well, I don't know if we put my oldest out of school. I think we just the baby and the younger one, or she's out there ringing all the bells, because it was for 15 minutes, I think, that Bishop Gustavo said, right, to ring the bells for. So we got there, and we're sitting in the kitchen at the church, and we're me, my daughters, my mom, and Father just there. We're looking, and we're like, oh, it was the American. I didn't even know an American was up for the running, right? I didn't
know who was up for the running. So.
We're like, we see his name, and we're like, that sounds a little bit English, right? And we're like, holy smokes! And because I think everyone who I was talking to was really rooting for the Philippine.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Cardinal from the Philippines, I think.
Yeah, and that's right.
So I don't know. There was a lot of.
Yeah, it was exciting.
I didn't really know. I didn't know any of the cardinals or any of the stories behind them, but I think it was who God wanted it to be. What is your purpose in life?
Well, through my journey, that has changed, but where I'm at right now, my purpose is really like to be out there bringing people to God, to share the good news. And I know that sounds like kind of not so great, but it really truly is when you're at a stage in life where you're ready, like so ready to do that. And you're so ready to share that because you've been blessed so much that you want to give it back to other people. You want people to know that, they have power, that you can build this power, this love that God gives to each of us. And so just really working on that and getting people to see that.
No, absolutely. When people think of Virginia Mata, what are the 3 words that come to mind?
Determined. And I'm going to say hardworking. I work super hard, I'll admit that. And dedicated. Actually more like a servant. I've always considered myself a servant leader.
Okay. What's one thing that you now look back at, and when you were younger, you wish, man, I wish I would have known that?
I think I wish I would have known how important it is to build those relationships. Yeah. I wish someone had told me about, building relationships and being intentional about it. Before I actually started working with cops, not working, but volunteering with cops, we had a visiting priest at Holy Family, and he put out what I heard was a call. I need help. Y'all need to help me help this community. And I immediately knew in my mind that that was part of social cognitive theory, and it's a theory that basically states that you can increase your chances of having fortuitous events occur in your life by living a more being more engaged, being intentional about your engagement. And these things oftentimes lead to transformational things. And it sure did for me, because I answered that call and my life completely changed. And so we can practice that. So when somebody invites you to do something, take that. You take that and see it as an opportunity to maybe have one of these events that can change your life.
Oh, well said.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think recently has been your call that you've been intentional to?
I think my call right now is really to help people understand the importance of caring for all of creation, including ourselves, and really to try to. The purpose of that is to really help create loving hearts. Like, in other words, almost like telling the heart, softening the heart to receive Christ and to be love and to spread love, not just for ourselves, but for everyone and everything.
No, that's well said. I think some of the most special people are able to walk that line of temptation, right? Just above it.
Oh,
and those are the people who change hearts more than anyone, right? Where they're fighting that every day, but they're throwing people up. They're picking them up, and because that's where the war's at.
Yeah.
And if you can change hearts at that, you can change the most hearts at that level, but you've got to be strong in your faith, and you've got to be very close to God, because it's so easy to just one slip,
Yeah.
And not that you can't change hearts up here, right? And I'm not giving you negative points for not having any temptation in your life, but most of those are broad strokes, and at that leadership level, do you really see what poverty looks like every day, right? Unless you're a Franciscan, you vouch to poverty, but it's different when you see it, and it's right there on knocking on your door. And those people who can change hearts at that level, they've got a special place in heaven.
Yeah. I think we have to, because that's something that God always told us in the Bible many times, over and over, like, take care of the poor, right? Take care of the widow, of the orphan children. And just going back to Matthew 25, right? Did you visit me while I was in prison? Did you clothe me when I was naked? Did you give me water and food? And so, just keeping those things in mind, and making sure, always also taking care of yourself. And I said I work a lot, and so that's my challenge sometimes, is to really step back and take a break. But just because you want to do that, right? Because you don't want to burn out, you don't want to overdo it. So it's important, to have some balance. But I really, pray for people that sometimes are lost because they're just blinded by everything that's happening around them, and so they fall off the road. And sometimes it's hard to get back on, because you don't have those roots planted right where you should have them, in the church and in your family, in your community. And so that's why it's so important to have those roots, those strong roots that keep you from falling. And even if you do fall, you're able to get back up, because that's what happens. A lot of people fall and they can't get back up. But it's tough. But the good news is that God never leaves us. He's always there with us. There. And so all we have to do is call on him, and then just do better.
And keep trying. Is there a parable that you often go back to and reference?
Well, I definitely love the parable of the Good Samaritan, but the scripture that I really go to is always I can do all things in Christ who strengthens me, from Philippians 4:13, I think. And so I rely on that a lot. And I've always relied, for some reason, I've always loved that scripture. I mean, growing up in the West Side, being poor and not really,
Losing your brother so young,
losing my brother, and
tragically.
yeah, and we didn't grow up with a father, so um it was tough. And people judge you based by how you sound, how you look, and so it's challenging, but it also makes you stronger. It makes us stronger going through those hardships, because I don't know that, I mean, I would have accomplished what I have without some of those hardships that I went through. And so those things made me strong. I mean, I didn't share with you, but like before the age of 12, like I had almost died 5 times. But I think those events prepared me for today, for where I'm at now. Yeah.
Jeez, 5 times. Is it- We
Crazy, some
yeah,
crazy stuff.
we got some. Well, I mean, it's those are the environments that shape you. And a friend of mine, he always says, nothing bad ever happens to me. Even when bad things happen.
Yeah.
Right. And if you have that outlook and that ability and that faith in God, that regardless of what actions happen, that he's there to take care of you, you can accomplish anything.
And it goes back to free will, right? We can decide, do I want this to make me better or bitter? And so it's you decide.
Right.
Yeah.
Better or bitter. How would you describe the type of power you have?
The power that I have is power that promotes the common good, power that defends inherent dignity, and power that promotes solidarity. That's what I'm really focusing on, because it's what we need. We need people that love, that have that love, and that can generate that love with others.
With your role right now with Archdiocese, what's your goal? Like, is it to get more churches to sign up for?
My goal really is to really help people understand Catholic social teaching, because when we teach that, when we teach about, well, that's one of the principles, is care for creation anyways, right? But when we teach that, I think we can open hearts and we can open minds, and we become united, more united.
Okay. Whose death greatly affected you?
I will say my brothers. My brothers. It was tough because we were young. I was 18, and we went to the site where it happened, and seeing the blood on a car, and he died. He had a, I mean, it was a brutal, violent death. And so that affected me a lot. And I mean, it affected me in a good way. Obviously, I use it to really build who I am, and really be there for people who suffer, whether it's from drug addiction or mental health problems, but try to be there for those folks. When I worked as a federal probation, I was always like trying to find ways to advocate for folks that had pled guilty and were facing lengthy terms of imprisonment. So I would advocate for minor roles, especially when they played minor roles, right? Because there's a lot of times where the couriers or whoever, I mean, they were doing the least important, the least minimal work or pay that was going to come from it, but yet would get these huge sentences. And the federal sentencing guidelines have a stipulation for, like, it says you can give them a minor role, and if you give them a minor role, you reduce the sentence by a little bit more. And so I was always known for applying that guideline. So it's kind of funny because I went into the probation work because the man that killed my brother was on parole. He had just been recently released. But then, as it turned out, I was always advocating for those that were facing long sentences, and who had exercised minor roles in their offenses.
Did your brother have any kids?
No,
No?
he didn't. He was 23.
Mm.
Yeah, he had a drug problem.
Mm.
Yeah, but the funny thing
I
is
was
that
gonna say what family did he leave behind? But just you guys.
yeah, it was just us. We were a very close family, like you know.
So it's 3 of y'all.
No, it's a big family.
Big. Okay.
Yeah, there was 11 of us
11?
total.
Where
But
do-
most,
where do
I
you
mean, we're
fall?
the youngest, so most of
Okay.
them were like kind of like gone by the time we were growing up. So yeah, but still, it was still a big impact because I mean, he was the youngest
Mhm.
brother.
You and
So-
your sister are the youngest.
Yes, and he was the youngest brother,
Mm.
so he was the one closest to our age.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, I think now, and I just look like you know we were still very blessed, and back then we didn't know I mean, we didn't know if what was happening. We didn't know why the West Side was the West Side, and why I mean things were happening. Now I understand more. I mean, how redlining continues to impact all these areas that were redlined still have the highest diabetes, the highest asthma rates, the lowest incomes, the lowest education.
Well, you went to the summit. I mean, you heard
Yeah.
all the. I mean, you.
Yeah.
Everything you know already, right?
Mm-hmm.
The life expectancy 20
Yeah,
year
the life
difference.
expectancy. Mm-hmm.
It's so crazy. If you were to die today, who's the one person you would call before you died?
My mom.
What would you say?
It would be either I have to be honest. It would be either my mom or my sister. That one will be a tough one. My twin sister. I would just say, you know, that I had a good life and thank them for their support and always being there for me.
Your mom's still alive?
Yeah, she's
How-
94.
94.
Mhm.
She's still strong.
She's pretty strong. Yeah,
Yeah.
she is. I mean, I hope I'm like that.
Is she strong in her faith?
Oh yeah. She, you know, we weren't the practicing Catholics growing up. I kind of did the church thing. I always felt a calling. I mean, the first book I ever bought truly really was a Bible at Wynn's. I don't know if you
Wins right here?
the little Wynn's. I don't think it's.
Well, they used to have a Wins
Yeah, did
right
they?
across the street.
Okay,
yeah.
'cause this
or
was
across
the-
from the post office. Yeah.
Yeah, it was at Wynn's back then. I know that they went out of business a long
Yeah, they
time
went
ago,
out.
but I'm showing my age. But
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
yeah. So I was always at that calling. So I went to church and stuff like that. We would only go with my mom would only make us go like, you know, for Easter and
What church did y'all go to?
Holy Family.
Holy
the same,
Family. Same
yeah.
one since you were a kid.
The
huh?
same one, yeah. I mean, I don't live there anymore, but I still
go
I
there.
came back to that church when I retired. I said that's going to be my church now. So because I wanted to be active in it, and so now that's what I do.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you went back to church, how old were you?
Well, I mean, I was always kind of going
In
like
and
off
out.
and on, yeah. But when I retired, I mean, I was always going to, I would go in Del Rio, I would go
Rio,
where
yeah.
I would live. But after I retired at age 50, that's when I really dedicated just totally to Holy Family.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
Has your faith always been this strong?
My faith journey, it's been a lot of ups and downs. I mean, just like a lot of people, but I've been blessed because I've always had it there, and so I knew that I can count on God. I mean, like when I went through my divorce was super hard on me, but it was my faith that got me through that, and it's actually my faith that got me all through so many things. I mean, even in the military, I mean, as an intelligence officer in the Navy, you don't hardly see Hispanic women. You don't even hardly see Hispanics in
Right.
the intelligence area. And so a Hispanic woman, it's very rare. So just a lot of challenges, but thank God, like, I mean, I never gave up, and God's always been there for me.
Yeah, God's carried you.
Yeah.
What happens after you die?
I think we enter into this, if that's what you're asking me, none of us really truly know. But I feel the energy and the love that God that can be created here on earth when we do God's will. So I can just imagine that multiply that by 1 million or 1 billion, and that's how more beautiful that feeling will be.
Okay. You talked about God carrying you through your faith journey. How do you know if something is divine?
if you feel love and you moves you from inside, it moves your heart, it's divine. You have to feel it in your heart. And if it moves you, because it's not just a feeling, but if it moves you to action, to do something, it's divine.
Okay. What's the best advice you were ever given?
Best advice I was given. Well, I don't know if you want to call it advice, but when I left to Texas Tech, like somebody in my family told me, you're not going to make it up there. It's like, you're going to come right back. Those words, I never forgot them. So when there was times at Texas Tech that I wanted to come back, I would remind myself, nope, I'm not going back just because of that. So I think that, I mean, because that changed everything for me. You know, I came back and
college graduate after all the challenges and your testimony.
So yeah, and I think that's what really drove me. Like, I didn't want to be another statistic, and I wanted to do better and just really represent the West Side, represent my family, and do well.
Okay. Did your brothers and sisters go to Edgewood or Memorial?
Everybody went to Memorial, but my twin sister and I are the only ones that went past the 9th grade, so we're the only ones that went to high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I asked my sister, like, why didn't you go to school? And I always wondered that too. And like, not too long ago, I was asking it, and she's like, well, and it's funny because she just told me the story not that long ago, like a few months ago. We were going to school, but then it was hard to get to school because there were no buses, there were no roads over here. And then one day, this man followed us home, and we said, that's it, we're not going back. And that was it. They never went back to school. But yeah, I mean, I wish they had gone to school and stuff.
Did you have a mentor growing up?
I didn't have a mentor that no, not like, I would love to have had I would love to have had a mentor. It was really just my twin sister and I. We really are super close, and yeah, we did. And so I think that's what helped us break those chains of poverty and literacy and stuff.
And into your adulthood and professional careers, who was a mentor, or who was a leader that really picked you up?
I'm gonna go back to the two leaders I had in the military. First, it was Lieutenant Long, who helped me get my commission, and then along the road there, it was a Lieutenant Commander. Actually, he was Commander. I forgot his name. It'll come back to me, but yeah, he helped me a lot. I mean, he was there when for example, when things would get tough and stuff. So yeah.
Okay.
I can't really say in my civil service job that I had. I mean, I had good mentors, but not someone that was closely like, okay, you need to do this, you need to do that. Like someone, like how they say they're prepping you for the next level. Never something like that I can recall. But overall, oh yeah, I know I do have one guy that was a probation officer. He was actually a Navy chief too, in the Navy. And he really believed in me, and he wrote, like, when I asked him for a letter of recommendation, without hesitation, he gave me that. And so people like that, I mean, were important for me. My old chief, Ruby Lehrman, I actually dedicated my dissertation to her, and the assistant deputy chief, Pat Hoffman, because I felt like they really played major roles in my life, because they opened that door for me to get that federal job. And that federal job really, for me, I mean, that was monumental, because coming from where I came from, like, to get a job at the federal system and be able to do that work was a big blessing. And so I felt like they were super important in my life. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. What intrigued your interest to really study power as much as you have?
I think just knowing how much work there is to do.
Mm-hmm.
And people have done so much work already, but yet here we are, and you look at the west side and the south side and the east side, and it still hasn't changed that much.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to change what we're doing, because we're not getting to the root causes. We keep addressing symptoms of the root causes. And so now that's why knowing the power that we have, that each of us has, is so important, because we have to change the root problems. Otherwise, we're going to continue with what we have.
Right.
And the only way to beat that is to create that power or that love that we can create together.
Okay. Is there anything you're promoting or anything you want to share?
Well, I mean, aside from our Laudato Si and caring for our common home, I really hope that all the parishes out there, if you want to join, there's still time to join. Even if, I'll bring you up to speed. I'll help you. And so, it's promoting that. Next month, we'll be participating in the Archdiocese is helping out with the Martin Luther King interfaith service, worship service, and then also the march the next day. So we'll hopefully get a good crowd out there. And have more representation from the Catholics.
Yeah, maybe we can get you out to be a part of our parade. When we down here at we started at St. Joseph's and we come all the way down, and we're calling it Old South Sand Parade, right? Because it used to be its own city.
Yeah.
So.
Sounds good. Yeah, I would love that. I'm always open to those events, right? Those moments where you can build more relationships,
more communities, and build power without walls.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I really enjoyed this. I think you've got a lot to share with the world. I'm looking forward to the book you're going to write. I don't know if you've told anybody about it, but I'm manifesting it into
Perfect.
right
Thank
there.
you.
It's going to happen. And until we have our next one.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.